I want to share a theory I have regarding early childhood development with you. And that theory goes something like this, that the way in which we interact with our children when we are trying to bring some form of correction to their behavior teaches our children how to deal with problems and something about, let's say, the nature of problems. Okay, so let me break this down a little bit for you in order to make it a little less convoluted. So what this means is that when we have a problem with something our child is doing, let's say, for example, wetting the bed or maybe behaviors that we would consider misbehavior, the way in which we approach that child and try to correct that child into displaying the behaviors we think are a better way of dealing with life will determine how children think about the natures of problems. And so, for example, if we, let's say, scream and yell at our kid when they do something we don't like, that would teach our child that problems are such that they should really stress you out. They're so big, problems are so big that they should really stress you out. And the way to deal with them is to get really angry and irrational such that you have to hurt little children. Because again, screaming and yelling at your kids is emotionally damaging to them. Okay, you shouldn't be screaming and yelling at your kids. Something you shouldn't do, that's abuse. That's abusive. That's about the worst. You know, I wouldn't go around screaming and yelling at my friends or, let's say, a significant other. I wouldn't scream and yell at them. And so there's just no way I would think it's okay then to scream and yell at a defenseless little kid, right? There's other ways to try and handle children. And so if we're doing that, then we're teaching them bad things about how to deal with problems. And thus, it would be my theory that when kids are, let's say, screamed and yelled at as a form of correcting them, that they're probably going to develop forms of anxiety because they really don't know how to handle problems correctly because mommy and daddy don't know how to be good people and actually treat their children with respect. Okay, so now when I looked at this theory, when I looked at it and I broke it down, I realized something, and that is, for this theory to be true, if this theory is true, it means that children are able to learn abstractions about the nature of existence and the nature of reality based upon the behavior of their parents. And this is like generally what could be true. It doesn't mean that they learn every abstraction about the nature of reality and that every behavior of their parents will teach them something, but generally this is what it would mean, is that it is possible for children to learn abstractions about the nature of reality and existence from their parents. Now, I may have lost some of you at this point with that statement, abstractions about the nature of reality. Well, what does that mean? Okay, so just let me break that down for you so you can understand it a little bit easier. So making an abstraction about the nature of reality is to try to describe what reality is actually like, or what things in the world are like. So in the example I gave, it would be like saying problems are such that. That's making an abstraction about the nature of reality, describing, let's say, in our example, what a problem is. Okay, so what this implies is that if children are able to make abstractions, and they don't consciously, by the way, they don't consciously make these abstractions, this would be part of the theory, is that children come to these conclusions, let's say, more subconsciously, and they have this view about the nature of problems without even really thinking about it. They learn this. It's a learned understanding of the world. And if they were to go back and sort of analyze their behavior and the way they reacted to problems, they would come to the conclusion that this is what they actually believed about things. Okay, so it means that they're able to make these abstractions, and then these abstractions become these deeply held beliefs that they maybe even don't know that they hold. Okay, so then let's take that a little bit further. And what this would imply is that either these abstractions are correct or they're incorrect. And that's a little strange to think about. Because if that's true, that means that children can learn truths or lies based upon the actions and behaviors of their parents. And think about that for a second. That means that the way someone's parents act teaches truth, or it can teach lies. Which would then mean that the parents are presumably acting in such a way that is either in accordance with the truth or it's in accordance with lies. Something that's not true. Now, I suppose you could make the conclusion that all truth is subjective and whatever, which is to say that truth doesn't really exist, obviously. But yeah, I found that to be a very interesting conclusion, because how can it be that someone's behaviors can be untrue? Meaning that they did the behaviors, but the behaviors didn't line up with some sort of truth. To me, this says something very significant. This is a very significant conclusion about our behaviors, because presumably, again, if you act in an ethical way, you're going to teach your children the right things. They're going to make the right abstractions about the nature of reality. But if you act in an unethical way, you're going to teach your children the wrong things about the nature of reality, and thus they will have a bad life. And by the way, if you fail at parenting, you're a bad person. I mean, that's an obvious conclusion to me. So if you teach your children the wrong things through your actions, then you're obviously not a good person. So we could say that definitely, if you're acting unethically, you're acting as a liar. You're a liar in the way you act. And so when I originally planned to do this video, I wanted to talk about how important it is to be a good parent, and then I stumbled upon this discovery that one can lie through their actions, and I found that to be a very interesting conclusion, and I plan to examine that more fully in a future video. Anyway, thank you for watching.